Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in once more. Contran here, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about CPU cooling, what the pros and cons are for each one, and hopefully at the end of the day you can come up with some of your own conclusion on what is best for you. Now this is the first. I'm just going to do a voiceover with gameplay of Overwatch, which is by far one of my favorite games currently. It's amazing and I am having tons of fun playing with it. Alright, enough about games. Let's get back to CPU cooler. Let's talk about the air coolers first. Now the most basic air coolers are the stock ones that come with your processor. Intel chips are notorious for including extremely cheap coolers, and that is an absolutely no joke. They suck. AMD has recently released a new stock cooler called the Wraith, and it's actually not bad at all. The problem with these stock coolers though is that you won't be able to overclock anything, and they will keep your CPU in a non-ideal temperature spot even if they aren't unlocked. Now the AMD cooler, the new Wraith, is actually pretty good, and if you don't plan on doing any overclocking or any heavy CPU usage like 24/7, by all means put it on and leave it on. You won't have any problems with it. Now aftermarket air coolers do a much better job at keeping the chip's heat under control. There are a wide variety of coolers with tons and tons of brands out there. However, some work and some are just garbage. The majority of air coolers have one or two technologies. The classic heat pipe to fin, which is the normal one that you see the copper going to the fins get pushed by air, heat dissipates. Or a vapor chamber. Now, the direct heat pipe to fin transfer is a very simple design. They're copper pipes that touch your CPU and run to where the fins are. These fins are then cooled off by the wind generated with the fans, which then cool off the CPU. It's a heat transfer. And it's a heat transfer that goes from metal to air contact. Very simple, very simple design. A vapor chamber uses a small amount of liquid inside each of these pipes. The steam generated from the heat of your CPU turns this liquid into gas, which travels faster up the pipe and cools down quicker as air passes through the fins. The exterior look of the vapor chamber looks almost the same as the regular air coolers, but they do a much better job dissipating heat faster and more efficiently. Now air coolers do come in all shapes and sizes. Typically the more fins and pipes they have, the cooler they keep your CPU. However, with size comes a lot of problems. RAM can sometimes become an issue of compatibility, and some cases won't even be able to close their panel because the air coolers will just bulge out of them. Air coolers will also rely heavily on the fans that are attached to them and your case's airflow. Good amount of positive case pressure and direct airflow to the cooler via a front-mounted fan or a vented side panel will help the cooler get fresh air quicker than it is trying to bring in air from the rest of the case. Having good fans will also mean that they won't have to ramp up as much, and they won't have to be spinning at 100% all the time in order to keep the air moving. It's crucial to have good airflow in a case in order to have that constant fresh air going inside the cooler. Otherwise you'll be bringing a lot of heat, a lot of exterior air from the cracks, the nooks and cranny, and it's going to starve the air cooler and deprive itself of the most ideal situations. Now water cooling. Water cooling has two categories: the all-in-one, the AIOs, and the custom loops. The AIOs are the best way to get your pinkies a little bit wet in the water cooling. Water transfers heat a lot faster than air coolers do, and with better space because of the radiators they use. An AIO is typically simple to install and even faster to use. About 5 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to find cases that would accommodate radiators, making water cooling a very annoying endeavor, but not the majority of cases support common radiator sizes. The way water cooling works is very simple. Your CPU comes into contact with the block, which has water running through it via small channels. The water travels up the radiator, which passes the heat through the various fins. Air is then blown through the fins via a fan, which reduces the temperature of the water drastically and brings it back down to the block. The process continues over and over in a loop. AIOs are significantly more expensive than most air coolers, but they do deliver better results in temperatures of your CPU. The way an AIO is set up is very simple. Some have a pump reservoir combo right where the block is on your CPU and connect to a radiator via tubing. Water cooling is highly recommended if you wish to really find the limit of your CPU overclock, since it will typically keep all the temperatures in check. Of course, don't be an idiot and burn your CPU by increasing voltage to an unsafe range, because then it becomes a motherboard issue and the AIO won't have anything to do with it. The second option for water cooling is custom loops. These are the loops where people buy blocks, tubing, reservoir, liquid, radiators, fans, and pumps completely separate and build everything themselves. These custom loops are very nice and will outperform the AIOs because their individual parts can be of higher quality, and you can expand on the amount of radiators you can have. You're not limited to just what the all-in-one came. The biggest downside to both of these options is the maintenance. Some of the AIO's pumps fail in shorter amount of time than any other part of the air cooler, and this can lead to your CPU burning out without you noticing. Leaking has also proven to be an issue with some AIOs and even custom loops if not built properly or installed properly. A leak is a very dangerous thing and can kill your PC if you are not careful and if you don't catch it quickly. The reality is these issues can happen, but through the years of product development, the numbers of these issues happening has gotten a lot lower, making water cooling a practical and very compelling option to go with. Good AIO brands like Corsair and Cooler Master always have about 240 radiator solution compared to the 120 or 140. These 240 radiators give you more surface area for the air to go through compared to the 120 and 140s, which means that you're going to have better performance. And find out more about the different options from performancepcs.com. They're a great source and you go ahead and love them. Hopefully this helps you a little in determining what your best option is. Rule of thumb is if you don't have an unlocked CPU and don't want to maintain loops and don't want to worry about any other thing except for the occasional dusting, go with an air cooler. If you want to test the limits of your unlocked CPU and get the best performance out of them, get yourself an AIO or a custom water loop. Alright guys, I hope that you guys found this pretty informational, and I hope you guys have a better understanding of the difference between air coolers and AIOs. If you guys have any comments, drop a comment and give me a like on this video, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Thanks.
Play of the game.